Hello and welcome to our online English class. Well, Today is April 27th and it's about 11 a.m. And I already had breakfast. What about you guys? Um, this week, I'm asking you because this week we're going to learn how to discuss food and how to describe eating habits. So I today had breakfast. I had eggs with chorizo actually, and I had some orange juice, and I'm having coffee right now. Um, I usually drink coffee all morning, as you may have noticed in our at school. So this week we're talking about that, and I would ask you, what did you have for breakfast today, and have you had breakfast already? I hope you have. So uh, yeah, so basically, this week we're going to learn how to describe eating habits and how to discuss food. And for that, we're going to be using some very common vocabulary that will be very useful to you. And also, we're going to be reviewing some grammar, and uh, also we're going to be reviewing some grammar and learning some new stuff as well. So as I mentioned in the class in the video about registering in Cambridge LMS, uh, we're gonna be doing this with the online book that you will have access once you register. So just a reminder, uh, to refresh your memory, we're gonna be using the online book that you can, if you remember, uh, you're going to go to, let me, here, so you're gonna go to Cambridge LMS, right? And you're going to, um, like that, actually, let me see, is it Cambridge, interchange, 5th edition, go, and you are going to log in because you already registered before, right? So in the previous video, I explained how to register, and hopefully by now you have registered. So now you just have to log in here, right? So for example, I'm going to log in. Okay. And you are going to be using the activities. Well, here, I have this book because this is the fourth semester book in this account, but you will have this book here. You will have Pomian ESL second semester, Interchange 5th edition, self-study intro, okay? So you're gonna go there, and you can go to content or to class home, and you're going to work on unit 5. I'm sorry, not unit 5, unit 9. Okay? So here, and you're gonna start working here. All right? So what is this week we're gonna learn we're gonna be using in this lesson. I'm gonna use the traditional book, the physical book. This is by the way, this is what your regular physical book looks like. And when we get back to school, you will have your physical copy. But for now, I will use this digital version of your book to go over the things. So first off, and one thing that you will see, for example, this part here. Uh, so we're learning about food. So we're learning about fruits and vegetables, about dairy products. I'm gonna make this bigger. So fruits and vegetables, typical foods, no? Fats and oils, grasas, fats and oils. So these ones, dairy products, so milk. Dairy products are like milk, cheese, yogurt, and then you have meat and other proteins. So you have beef, you have fish, beans, chicken, eggs, and nuts. You also have grains. So you have rice, you have pasta, you have crackers, which is like cookies but salty instead of sweet. So crackers are like, yeah, like cookies but salty. Cereal, bread, etc. So you have different types of foods, and so one thing that you might say, like for example, I did you like I don't know, I personally don't like mayonnaise, so but I like butter, right? So very frequently we express what we like and what we don't like, and it's very simple to do that. We say I like and I don't like, right? So for example, here we talk about fruits and vegetables. I can tell you that I like tomatoes, but I don't like well, actually like everything here. Maybe onions I don't like as much. So I like tomatoes, I don't like onions. What do you like about fruits and vegetables? And you can do the same thing for each one. So in your online book, I'm sorry, you're going to go to the first activity and you're going to match here, right? So you're going to say, for example, bananas, right? So you can say bananas. What is banana? Is it a fruit or a vegetable? So I think it's a fruit. What about lettuce? So I think lettuce, right? I think it's a vegetable. So you're gonna do that, and you're going to go to the next exercise here. And in the next exercise, you have you're gonna use a or an. So if you remember from our previous classes, we use a for things that begin with a consonant sound, like here, tomato, right? So if you choose a or an for tomato, what would you choose? I would choose a because it's t, tomato. So choosing a or an depends on the beginning of the word, right? So, for example, which one here would be an option in which you would use an? So, for example, egg, right? An egg. Because egg begins with a vowel sound. So, an egg. So, the N, you use that N to separate the A and the E. So, because if you don't use it, it's going to sound like egg, and it's becomes a diphthong. Si no lo usamos, se vuelve un diptongo, ¿verdad? So that is the criteria here. So very simple. That's exercise number 2. So then we move on to exercise number 3. So now going back to the book here, well, if we look at this conversation between these two people, we're gonna listen to it, and let's play this conversation here.
Page 59.
I'm sorry.
Exercise. Conversation. Let's get some lettuce and some tomatoes.
So let me adjust the volume because it's very high. Let's see now.
Listen and practice.
So actually here, let me adjust the volume in this section here. This one. Yeah, it's too.
Do we need any lettuce for the sandwiches?
Good idea. Let's get some lettuce and some tomatoes.
Do we have any bread?
No, we need some. And we don't have any cheese.
Let's get some cheese then. And some chicken too.
We have some chicken at home.
Oh, all right. How about some potato salad?
Sure. I love potato salad.
Great. Let's buy some.
Very good. So basically, this conversation has it contains a lot of the vocabulary and the grammar that we are going to need for this unit. And the first thing that we might need and that we will need is this. So how to convert or how to use our nouns, like for example, and it is very simple to make it a plural noun, right? So we only have to add s, egg, eggs. Very simple, but there are some nouns, and by the way, remember that nouns are things or people. Recordar, nouns, cuando digo noun, me refiero a sustantivo, que son personas o cosas o personas. En este caso son cosas, porque son alimentos. Okay, so how to make it plural? This is very simple, but maybe here we need to remember that there is a little rule in which we need to add es. Potato, potatoes, but when we write, we have to add the e, right? So let's review that, guys. Let's go ahead and review that. For that, we're going to go to a simple presentation here, and we're going to review those rules. And the rules are very, very simple. Let me just open the presentation. Okay. So, let me here, singular and plural. Okay, so normally, right? Normally, when you have one button, you say the plural form, it's two buttons. So normally, we only add the s, right? That is the common thing to do. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. So normally the rule is that to form the plural of a noun, we only add s. Now, there are exceptions. For example, the first exception is when a noun ends in a consonant sound and then y. So when you have a consonant sound and then y, at the end, there is a different ending for the plural. When that happens, we need to change y to I, and then we add s. So that is the first rule we have to remember, important rule to remember. So for example, one baby, you change it for two babies because there's y and b. B is a consonant sound. So we change it. Same thing here. One party, 6 parties. Okay? But why here, why don't we change y for I and es? Why does it stay the same? ¿Por qué se queda igual aquí? Why does it stay the same? Well, the reason is here we have a vowel, vocal, a vowel sound before the y. So in that case, we don't need to change it. We can only add the s as normal. Okay? Same thing here. Okay? Very, very simple. So that is the second, this is the second rule. Okay? Second rule. Okay? Now, third rule. What happens when a noun ends in f or f and e? Normally when a noun ends in f, or even if it has an e at the end but the sound is f, normally we have to change it, the f, we change it to v. The reason is that it is very difficult for the mouth, es muy difícil para nuestras bocas, to articulate F with S. If you try to say it like wives, because when you say F, there is air that flows out of your mouth. And with S, there is more air. So if you say F, it is very difficult. So we change when the sound at the end of a noun is F, we're going to change it to V, and that way V doesn't have air, and you can use S. 2 wives, easy, instead of 2 wives, right? More difficult. So here, 1 life, 2, 1 wife, 2 wives, 1 life, 2 lives, right? Very, very easy. So that is the second rule, okay? The second exception, I'm sorry, second exception. Third exception. When the singular noun ends in a sound that has air, like sh, ts, s, or x, right? Those are sibilant sounds. They have air, right? So in those cases, and these are the cases, we need to add E and S. Because if we do not have that then it is very difficult to say wishes, right? Watches. So we need that E. So this is the third exception. Wishes, watches, glasses, taxes. So when the last sound is sibilant. Finally, and this is the fourth exception, the one that we are going to use more in this unit, is when the thing ends in O, preceded by a consonant. So, for example, tomato, to. Before the O, there is a consonant sound. In that case, we need to change. We also need to add E and S, not only the S. Tomatoes, potatoes. Okay? In this case, it does not happen because before the O, there is another vowel sound. So in those cases, we don't need that. Okay, so we have four exceptions, right, to review. And this exception, this exception, this exception, and this exception, okay? So we have 4 exceptions for singular and plural nouns. So when you go to your book here, okay, you're going to do that. So for example, if you choose tomatoes, right? Tomato, oranges, that's a plural. So you have examples. Now the second thing here, right? Now the other thing is that there are, for example, these are plural nouns because we can count them. There are nouns that we cannot count, like bread. You cannot count bread or lettuce. See? Okay, so in those cases we don't need to do anything, right? Now here, to answer this part here, there is one thing here. We have 2 words that we use a lot for in this when we are talking about or offering or asking for food, okay, or talking about food, and those words are some and any. So these 2 words are very easily confused. Now, when do we use some and when do we use any? Okay, so that is an important lesson that we should have. All right, so let's see that. So today's second lesson is going to be on some and any. So the first thing that I have to remind you is that there are things that you can count. For example, bracelets. You can count 1, 2, or 3 bracelets, but you cannot count jewelry, joyería. Entonces, un pequeño paréntesis, es importante recordar que en este tema Tenemos cosas que podemos contar y cosas que no. Brazaletes podemos contar, joyería no. ¿Ok? Para eso vamos a utilizar entonces diferentes formas de organizar nuestra información. So, you can use 1, 2, or 3 for bracelets because you can count them, but you cannot use 1, 2, or 3 for jewelry because you cannot count jewelry. You have to use some or any. So, you can count pens, 1 pen, 3 pens, right? Some pens, a lot of pens, because and you can use the singular or the plural form for pens because you can count pens, but you cannot count jewelry. You cannot. So you cannot do s. You are going to refer jewelry, some jewelry, or some jewelry, or a lot of jewelry, but no plural form, and that is very important. So you are not going to use a because it's not singular. It's general. It's non-count. And you are not going to use 1 because it's non-count. And it has no plural form because you cannot count it. Okay? So, right? Books is, you can count books, but you cannot count grammar, right? Excellent. Now, what about salt? Sal. Can you count salt? Well, you cannot count salt, right? You cannot count it. It's not count. Can you count chairs? Yes, of course you can count chairs, right? So that's basically that's how it works. Now, some and any. When do we use, to understand when we use some and when we use any, first we need to review when we use some. Okay, so let's go back to the example of the bracelets. So you have a book. I can say I have a book, and I can say she has an umbrella. So a or an, right? Because they are singular count nouns. Now, what about this case? So I cannot say we have a apples because apples is plural. But maybe I can say I have 3 apples if I remember that I have 3. But what about when you know that you have apples, but you do not remember how many apples you have? So in that case, we're going to use some. Some works like algunas, algunos. Okay? So we have some apples, we have some soccer balls. You don't remember the number, but you remember that you have. And that is very important because you have some apples. It is real. You have some apples. Okay, so you can have some mail information. So in this case, it is important to see that we can use some for countable and also for non-countable nouns. Podemos usar some para sustantivos contables y no contables. Muy importante. Mail information, that is okay too. Okay? So, for example, here, hat, sombrero. She has a hat on her. Bueno, aquí les dije la respuesta. She has a hat on her head. Singular. But what about this one? Nice hats. Which one would you choose? Some, right? Because it's a plural one. What about here? Some, because it's non-count. Okay, so you cannot say a water or an water. No, it's non-count. Some water. Entonces en este caso es importante entender algo. Si hacemos la traducción de some como alguna, alguno, algunas, algunos, va a ser difícil. Aquí es donde no queremos caer en eso, en esa parte de confiarnos tanto en la traducción. Y hay que entender que, bueno, en español diríamos algo de. En este caso, necesito algo de agua. No es importante notar porque en español son 2 palabras, algo de. Pero noten cómo la función es la misma, some water. Entonces no podemos decir some, la traducción es alguno, alguna, algunos. No, hay que entender cómo funciona. En este caso, bueno, funciona como algo de agua, ¿verdad? Pero importante notar eso, ¿no? No es completamente traducible a una sola palabra, sino realmente cumple una función que en español, para la cual en español utilizaríamos diversas palabras. A veces sería algunas, algunos, ¿verdad? Algún, a veces sería algo de, ¿verdad? Como en el caso de sustantivos no contables. Muy bien. So, finally, now, when do we use some and when do we use any? So that is the last part here. So when do we use some, when do we use any? For example, Alice has some money. Well, we use some in affirmative statements. ¿Ok? Cuando afirmamos algo. We use any in negative statements. When we negate something. Cuando negamos algo. Entonces, lo que pasa aquí es que tenemos una diferencia muy importante entre el inglés y el español. En este caso tenemos más precisión en el inglés, más especificidad, ¿verdad? Para una palabra algún, alguno, cuando sí hay y cuando no hay, ¿verdad? Alice has some money because, yes, she has, positively, but Alice doesn't have any money. We cannot say Alice doesn't have some money. That would be contradictory in English. Very important to know. Secondly, in questions, well, in questions you can use both, any and some. Because in questions you do not know if yes or no. When you ask a question, you don't know if Alice has money or if she doesn't have any money. So in questions you can use both. Although normally in questions we usually prefer to use any because we don't know. So when you make a question like, do you have any money? That's much better because you don't know. But this is okay too. Do you have some money? That's fine too. Okay? So that is very important to know that. Okay? And you can use any. Una vez más, recuerdo, la traducción sería muy difícil decir, es que some era alguno, alguna, algunas. Bueno, ¿por qué? Porque también any también puede entenderse como alguno y algunas. También sería entendible de esa forma, o algo de, pero el contexto es diferente. O sea, en español no depende del contexto si utilizamos una palabra o la otra. En inglés sí. En inglés si es negativo, utilizamos any. Si es positivo, utilizamos some. ¿Verdad? Entonces es importante ver que no nos vamos a poder confiar en la traducción tan fácilmente. Tenemos que aprender cómo utilizar el lenguaje dependiendo del contexto. Y el contexto aquí es negativo. So, entonces usamos any. So, Graham doesn't have any coins, any money. So you can use it with plural, with non-counts. So for example here, I need some or any. What do you think? Some, right? Because it's positive. We don't have. We don't have any cheese because we don't have. It's negative. All children should have, of course, some books, right? There aren't negative, there aren't any horses in the field. Okay, so that is how we use some and any, guys. And so when you're doing, when you're working on this part, which in the virtual book is here, right? So you're going to choose, well, I usually have, that sounds good. Do you have, right? So you're going to remember that for questions, we prefer to use any. You can use both, but we prefer to use any. So for this exercise, I will tell you That for questions, use any, right? And that's because in the book, actually, they work it like that, right? Ok, muy importante. Recordar entonces que de acuerdo, importante, o sea, cada editorial, los autores a veces difieren un poquito con cuestiones del uso del lenguaje. Y en el caso de nuestro libro, en el cual se va, que es este libro virtual, para las preguntas sí estamos dándole predilección a any. Entonces hay que responder en este caso a las preguntas con any, ¿verdad? Aunque como vimos ahorita, ya en una realidad más laxa, a veces podemos usar any o some para preguntas, pero sí preferimos any. Y aquí en el libro definitivamente nos dicen que para negativos y preguntas utilizamos any. Muy bien. Entonces este sería ese ejercicio. This will be this exercise. Then we will move on to exercise 4. So I always eat breakfast. Same thing. Lo mismo, ¿verdad? Vamos a usar any or some. So we are going to use any or some, depending if it's negative or positive. Okay? Then we move on to exercise 5. And here we have a new topic. So this is topic number 2. So for this, I have to go to the next page. If we go to the conversation here, so here you can, let's go here, we'll go to this conversation here. And let's play it.
Page 61. Exercise 6. Conversation. We always have green tea. Listen and practice.
What is a typical Japanese breakfast, Kaito?
Well, we usually have fish, rice, and soup.
Fish for breakfast? That's interesting.
Oh, it's really good. Sometimes we have a salad too, but we never have coffee.
Really? What do you have?
We always have green tea.
I love green tea.
Listen, my family usually has a Japanese-style breakfast on weekends. Why don't you come to my house on Sunday?
That's very nice of you. Thanks.
So one of the things that we are going to use a lot when we talk about food, when we describe our eating habits, is these words like typical, like usually, sometimes, never, always. Those are words that we're going to use a lot when we describe habits in general, any type of habit. And those are adverbs of frequency. And the ones that we have to learn for this unit are always, usually, often, sometimes, hardly ever, and never. And for that, and the way that we determine, so how do they work? What do we use them for? Okay, let's think about it for a moment. We use these words to describe the frequency with which we do something. Okay, so when we do something 100% of the time, we use always. When we never do something, when we do it 0% of the time, we use never. But in between, we have a lot of possibilities, or some possibilities, right? So usually it's like 87%, 85%, 90% maybe. Often it's like 75%, sometimes maybe like 50%, hardly ever maybe like 25%, and never is 0. So now for that we can also, let's go here and we are going to actually review the simple present tense as well. Aquí también vamos a aprovechar para repasar nuestro presente simple e introducir estos adverbios de frecuencia, muy importantes. Okay, so let's review the form and the meaning of the simple present tense. Very important. So remember that for verbs, right? I walk, we walk, singular, plural, the same, because it's first person. Very important. First person, no change. Second person, no change. Third person, change for the singular form, not for the plural form. So third person plural is they. Okay, no problem. So if you say Maria, Pancho, and Pepe walk, right? Because it's they. But if you say Maria walks, Pancho walks, the dog walks. So we need to add the S. And that is very important, okay? So that's just a quick review here for that. Now, when we talk about using frequency, we're going to continue reviewing that simple present form in the following classes, but for now I want to focus on these frequency adverbs: always, usually, often, sometimes, seldom, rarely, and never. So 100% of the time, Maria always eats lunch at school. 90 to 90% of the time, usually. Often. Now, in real life, you are not going to think about numbers and percentages. Of course not. You are going to think about how do you say it in Spanish. For example, en español dices, yo siempre como en la escuela. No estás pensando en un 100%, estás pensando simplemente que siempre lo haces. Pero cuando dices, yo seguido como en la escuela, seguido, no piensas en un porcentaje, piensas en el hecho de que lo haces seguido, más de la mitad del tiempo. Eso es lo que importa, más de la mitad del tiempo. Entonces, often funciona como seguido. Más o menos, sería como, digamos, la palabra más equivalente, ¿no? Con la que mejor podríamos compararlo en español. Often. Usually, right? Often. Sometimes. Sometimes. En ocasiones. A veces. ¿Verdad? Serían las palabras que en español utilizaríamos. Sometimes. Seldom. The opposite of often. Seldom is like hardly ever. Seldom es como casi nunca. Hardly ever. Rarely. Very rarely. And never. Now, the book uses hardly ever instead of seldom. En el libro se utiliza hardly ever en lugar de seldom. Y no nos están dando la opción de rarely. Pero les voy a decir, esta es muy común. Seldom. Y es como hardly ever, en el sentido en el que es no seguido. De hecho, menos de la media, ¿no? O sea, como hardly ever es como difícilmente, rara vez. Rara vez. Seldom, ¿ok? Más o menos están donde mismo. ¿Sí? So seldom, rarely, and hardly ever, those are three options for this part here. And then never, 0, okay? So in your workbook, you're going to do this. You're going to say always. Always is, what do you think always is? Always, right? Match the adverbs of frequency. So I'm giving you that one, right? Les regalo esa. Okay, so you're going to choose this with a percentage, okay? Very good. Next one. Exercise number 7. No, I'm sorry, 6. Complete the sentences, write the missing words. In Japan, people... So, what do you think? Sometimes fish have. So, this is writing. Aquí un poquito más complejo, es escritura. Hay que hacer un pequeño paréntesis aquí. Recordar que en el uso del lenguaje, have, en inglés, a diferencia en español, tener. Nosotros no decimos, yo comúnmente tengo pescado para comer. O sea, tener no lo usamos como en el sentido de comer. Y en inglés sí. Have es muy común utilizarlo en el sentido de tener para comer. O sea, es muy común que alguien te diga, I usually have fish in the morning. No es que tengan en su posesión pescado en las mañanas, es que se están refiriendo a have como tener como desayuno, o sea, como para comer, tener para comer. Entonces tiene esa connotación en inglés. Tener se puede utilizar como tener para comer, ¿verdad? Que es como, literalmente, como comer, ¿sí? What are you having for dinner? O what do you have for dinner? No es que tienes en tu posesión, es que tienes para comer, o sea, que comes, así se entiende, en la cena, ¿verdad? Entonces va a venir la palabra have, pero en el sentido de tener. Entonces, ¿qué sería aquí? In Japan, people sometimes have fish for breakfast in the morning. ¿Ok? Y así vamos a completar estas partes de aquí. ¿Sí? ¿Cómo? Utilizando primero el adverbio de frecuencia, ¿verdad? Después el verbo, después la comida, el sustantivo. ¿Sí? Primero lo repito, el adverbio de frecuencia, después el verbo, puede ser have o eat, y finalmente el sustantivo, como fish, vegetables, cream. Ese es el orden que vamos a seguir. ¿Ok? Muy importante, very important. Next activity. I think this is the last activity. Yes, this is the last activity here. Well, this is the last activity that is no listening. It's just right and ordering. Put the words in the correct order. Easy, no? So remember. For example, who, they, right? They what? So adverb of frequency first. Primero el adverbio de frecuencia. They usually. They usually what? Después del adverbio de frecuencia, ¿qué sigue? El verbo. En este caso, have. They usually have. What do they have? ¿Qué viene después del verbo? Eat. El verbo puede ser have o eat en este contexto. ¿Ok? Have o eat. Entonces, después de have o eat va a venir la comida, ¿verdad? They usually have chicken for dinner. Este es el orden que vamos a utilizar para nuestras oraciones que vamos a completar. So this is important. Put the words in the correct order. So who, how often, quién, qué tan seguido, who, how often, what do they do, the action, have or eat, and what is the food, and for what, for dinner, for breakfast, for lunch. Okay, so that is the last activity number 8. And then we have 2 listening exercises. Okay, so here you're going to put play.
Hello?
Hi, Pam. I'm at the store. I forgot the list. Do we need any milk?
So you're going to listen to the conversation and then you're going to answer these 3 to complete them. Okay? Listening exercise number 2. You're going to listen to the conversation again, and you're going to choose the food that the people need. Okay? So you're going to highlight. For example, if the people need milk, you're going to highlight milk, carrots, bread, depending on the conversation. If you want to erase, you say, oh, no, it's incorrect. Okay? You can erase. And that's it. This is the last activity that we are going to do for this week. Listening exercise number 2. So there are 10 activities, and that is the lesson, guys. That is the lesson for today. I hope that it was a good lesson for you. That is all, and this is your book, and you will have your books when we come back. And if you have any questions, remember that the office or the hours, the office hours in which you can ask questions are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, so I'll be in touch, and if remember that if one of you do not have internet access and cannot work on this platform, please, you have to contact me to see how I can help you, how I can work something with you. Okay, now just so that you know, these activities are the exact same activities of the workbook of your books. So we are doing exactly the same activities of the workbook of your books, but in digital format, okay, in e-learning format, which is much better. Okay, so I'll see you around. I hope that it was a good lesson. Any questions, drop me a message, and well, bye.